everybody, my name is Jose Luis Garcia and I'm a teaching artist with Arts for Learning Miami. Today we're going to learn to make our very own artist book. This can be a journal or a sketchbook, all created by hand by you. Let's get started. Today we'll be creating 3 different book forms using paper and other crafting material. This is a great project for students of all ages, but I find that students in elementary school in grades K through 5th really love using their handmade books to practice writing, spelling, and of course drawing. Bookmaking projects are simple and fun, but really define a student's motor skills, critical thinking skills, and of course creativity. This book form is an accordion book and only uses folding techniques. What's great about this project, or this particular fold book, is you can read it as a teeny tiny book or really expand. A Venetian blindfold book is a variation of an accordion book, but uses some hole punches along with some string. I love this book form because you can close it almost like a scroll. A lot of people say that this reminds them of blinds and windows. And just like an accordion, it could be read so many ways. I think the funnest thing about book forms are how students choose to adapt and creatively think. This was from my student Matthew last year. Our single signature stitch book is the closest to a conventional book. We'll go ahead using decorative pages to create an interesting cover and of course leave plenty of blank pages to fill in throughout the school year. Materials for this project include a sheet of blank paper. Any size paper is fine, just keep in mind the smaller the page, the smaller your book. You can also use a ruler. This ruler will be used to measure out your book and also crease any of your folds. If you don't have a ruler, you can always use a marker in its place, again to get those nice smooth creases. For our stitched books, we're going to need a hole puncher and the muscles of an adult. We're going to need a scissor. I recommend safety scissors always. And some yarn. I like using nice bright colors so that it really showcases the binding. Go ahead, take a moment to retrieve all your materials and let's get started. The first book form we're going to make today is going to be our accordion book, like this long red one we see here. I'm using a rectangular small page from an origami pad, so a kind of decorative paper used for folding. So I'm going to make a really small book. What's really great about the accordion book is that you can fold it as many times as you'd like if you want to make a really tiny, thin, narrow book, or you can fold them a little bit wider to make a wider book. What you'll start off by is laying your page flat, and you'll grab one side of the page and you're going to line up the corners with the opposite side. Once I line up the corners, I use my hand to hold them in place, and then I use my index finger on the other side to kind of smooth very gently. I don't want to press down too hard in case it's crooked. If it's crooked, unfold it and try again. You can use your straight edge like a marker to go ahead and really crease down your pages if you want nice sharp lines. You can also measure out using your ruler. Maybe you want to measure out the middle of your page or only create 1-inch pages or 3-inch. I think it's really great for doing math problems and working with addition and division and the numeric system. So for this page, I'm going to go ahead and fold it in half, and I'm going to fold it a second time. I'm going to grab the corners, lining them up, pressing down, using the straight edge. I'll do it one more time, flipping it over. What you do to one side, you must do to the other. Now I have my accordion book. You can display it standing up. You can display it laying down. You can even hang it. You have 2 sides to work with. You have your front side and back side. If you're using a 2-sided page like mine, I might use the white page to create a drawing and then leave the red for some nice covers. If you'd like to kind of customize and optimize your accordion book, we could create a Venetian blind book. What we'll do is we'll start off with our regular accordion book and we'll close it shut. Once it's closed, we'll use a hole puncher and we'll measure using our ruler about 1 inch off of the side of our book. This will give us plenty of space. If we do it too close to the edge, we might tear it when we start sewing and binding it together. So I go ahead and punch a hole on one side, and again, what we do to one side, we do to the other to create a symmetrical book. If we want to create an asymmetrical book, we can do it in different sizes, different kinds of edges, but just remember that it won't close flat and shut like this one. Right now this opens nice and even, symmetrical holes. So I'll lay this flat. Next I'm going to get my yarn. I'm using some nice bright green, the complementary color of red, and I'm going to measure 4 times the side of my book. 3 and 4. With your accordion book with holes punched and your string ready, you'll close your book shut and you'll start to weave and bind the thread through the hole. You'll go ahead and do the same thing to the other side. So I'm going to carry over this string and go in through the hole. So I get a nice straight line with my yarn. On the opposite side, you'll have 2 pieces of the yarn hanging. At this point, we can add a bead to our book. We can practice tying our shoes. We can just create a simple knot. What you want to make sure is that you don't do it too close to your book, because then it's going to limit how much you can open. I like to do it at the very end. Creating a nice little bow. Now I can open up my book, show my creation, and also have it embellished with a new skill. Our last artist book for today will be a single signature stitch book. This is great for a journal or sketchbook, and it's the closest to a conventional book. We'll start off by using a nice decorative page. This is a painting created by Nestor in my 2nd grade class. He used circle forms, which look really nice against the hole punches we'll make later. And on the inside, he also created nice, beautiful, bright pattern of color using different shapes and really making it pop. When we put the book together, it's going to look really nice. So don't think of just only the front cover. Think of the inside cover too. We can go ahead, fold it in half, lining up the corners the same way we did with our accordion book, pressing down the center, smoothing it through, and using your straight edge for a nice sharp line. I recommend using a thick paper, watercolor paper, or cardstock for this first page. On the inside pages, we'll use blank sheets of paper. You can use as many as you'd like. I like to add as I go. So for today, we're just going to start off with 2. You can stack them on top of one another, line up the corners, press all the way through. Now we're going to open up our cover page. We're going to put all of our blank pages for our book. And now we're going to measure along the spine of our book. I like to measure right on the center and then 1 inch from the edges. So if you measure out 1 inch, sometimes it'll be 2 fingers for my 2nd graders. And then you can ask the help of a parent to hole punch. Depending on how many pages you put inside of your book, it might be too thick for your muscles. If not, you can measure each page one by one very carefully. I know a lot of you that really pay attention to the details in your artwork, so I know you will take the time to make a really nice book if you don't have help. With the hole punch, we'll punch a hole in the center, and then we'll go ahead and punch the marks that we left 1 inch off of each side. At this point, I'll lay my book flat, and I'm going to go ahead and use my yarn to measure out the side of my spine of the book. We're going to do it 1, 2, 3.5 times. This will give us plenty of room, and we can cut any excess off later. using our safety scissor. Now I'm going to open up my book down the center, making sure all of my pages are open. I'll stack them to make sure that all of the hole punches align. And I'm going to grab my yarn and weave the thread through the center hole. If you notice, I'm going to leave a little tail still sticking out. If you open up your hand nice and wide, that's about the size of the tail that we'll want to leave. I'll open my book back up, and now I'll go to the next hole. You can either choose to go to the top one or the one below. It's up to you. I'm going to go through the bottom. I'm going to pull on the string at this point. I don't want to pull too hard. If I pull too hard, it's going to start to take away that tail we left in the center. Once I feel that I have all of the extra string pulled, I'm going to close my book. I'm going to keep my hand holding onto that center point, and I'm going to go in through this hole that's empty. At this point, the string's telling us it wants to join its friend, so we'll meet it in the middle. This part's a little tricky because you're working through a hole that already has string. Just be careful. If the edges get loose, you can always trim them. Now what I'll do is I'll tug on both of my strings until I feel tension. That means it's ready for a regular knot. With the spine in between both pieces of yarn, one on the bottom, one on the top, I'm gonna tie my knot. This knot is just to hold it in place. I like to put a double knot. Then I go ahead and tie it like I would my shoes. I like to keep the bow about the size of the spine so that it all stays inside. And now we have our single signature artist book. This is great. You could create a comic book, storybook. You can write. You can explore different narratives. And you can also journal what you've been up to these days. Thanks for making books with me today. I hope you had fun learning about lines, shapes, and different book forms. Anytime you want to create something new, remember, all you need is a sheet of paper. You can make simple books by just folding, or really decorate and enhance your books with scissors, yarn, string, and don't forget the glitter. Don't forget to ask a parent or guardian to share pictures of your project and tag @A4LMiami and use the hashtag A4LMiamiAtHome on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.